Tyler, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for accepting doing the interview with us. So my name is Juliana. I'm located here in Brazil.
I've never met a Brazilian that I don't like. Very cool people.
Yes. Well, I heard a lot about your incredible work with molecular gastronomy, and I would like to ask you a few questions about it and about your work with Pacojet. Tell me a little bit about your career and how did you become a chef?
My name is Tyler Lyne. I currently live in Birmingham, Alabama. We're building a restaurant down here right now. I moved here from New York City, so spending nearly 2 decades in New York City. I'm originally from Texas. I became a chef kind of slowly. I never really decided, like, today I'm going to wake up and be a chef. Well, I mean, in Texas and in most cultures, food revolves around a lot of social gatherings. So, I quickly learned that the guy that knew how to cook was invited to all the parties. And that was sort of the hook. I guess I was kind of good at it. And then I decided to go to culinary school, which is where I went to, the Culinary Institute of America and in New York. From there, it's just kind of the natural progression of just like go live in New York. I started working for a guy named Shea Galante. That was a one Michelin star restaurant. From there, I started working at Boulay with David Boulay. So I worked there for a few years. I left Boulay and then started working for David Chang at Momofuku Co. Those were both 2 Michelin star restaurants. From my first day of cooking in New York till the last day of cooking in New York, that's probably the one common machine that we had was a Pacojet. It can do so much.
Yes. And would you please tell us a little bit about molecular gastronomy?
Well, at the time, I would say in 2006, this whole molecular gastronomy thing was just kind of breaking through the mainstream, and there weren't a lot of cookbooks written about it. There wasn't a lot of information about it. It was kind of like these secrets, held by a couple of shamans, of the religion of cooking. You had to either go figure it out for yourself or get in touch with one of these high priests of molecular gastronomy to kind of show you how to do it. I realized coming out of culinary school, I wasn't going to go into a restaurant and have my star shine bright. Everybody was really good. So my strategy of trying to what I can do is outlearn these guys. And so I bought every book I could imagine. I got books in different languages, books that nobody had ever heard of that were meant for scientists. Any book that I could find that I knew no one else had gave me an advantage. I'm now getting information that they don't have access to. I took classes from Alex and Aki Talbot from Ideas in Food. It's kind of where I first learned how to use a Pacojet. I didn't sleep much, because I was just trying to download as much information as quickly as I possibly could. So that way, when I went into my job, I would come in armed and ready, and it worked very well. I became the guy that people came to ask questions on how to do something. I became, the guy the chef would lean on because he didn't know none of these chefs knew any of this stuff. And that was, it gave me a lot of great experience in terms of how to develop, how to manipulate these things. And it's like accounting. You just got to know the rules. Once you know the rules, you can bend the food reality to your will. But if you don't know the rules, and it can be very frustrating. And it was very frustrating for me for many, many years of not getting any results that I wanted. But, eventually you start to figure it out, how to use them. And yeah.
So cool, amazing. I was going to ask you, how did you find out about Pacojet? And you just told me that when you're studying the molecular gastronomy, you discovered Pacojet, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a really stupid problem. But one of the problems, that you have, especially when you're doing R&D, is if you want to set a gel, you have to make it enough in volume to be able to put into a blender in order to blend that set gel into a liquid gel, right? One of the issues is that, the blenders were too powerful, or the blades were too big, or the blender was too big. And so the Pacojet was great because you could just set that gel no matter what volume. You put that much in the bottom of that beaker and you just hit cycle, and that blade would travel through the material and come back up. And then it was a really easy way to make gels. And I saw Alex Talbot do that one time, and I was like, oh, it's brilliant, really smart. And it was clean, and the gel was beautiful and perfect and lump free and no granularity to it, and was a game changer.
I was going to ask you if you could use Pacojet for molecular gastronomy, and you just answered that.
Well, I think that the molecular gastronomy is sort of a bad name for it because it sounds fancy, like alchemy, and it's not like that. People get a mind's eye idea of what molecular gastronomy is, but when you think about it at its core, it's the same type of cooking as any other type of cooking. And so when you talk about molecular gastronomy, you can't not talk about hydrocolloids. But once you learn something, you can't unlearn it, right? Like you have that forever. And now I still use it just as heavily as I always have. But now I start to think about how can I not use it? And then how can I, if I do use it, now I know it's the best possible answer to a problem. And then how can I, when people get that plate, how can I make it where they don't even know it's there? I think that's cool. Using science to make better food. You can do some pretty cool things just in the interest of making things better.
And what is your favorite recipe of molecular gastronomy to do with Pacojet?
Honestly, it's probably the most non-cool thing that Pacojet does, but it's probably my favorite is to make like mousselines or mousses, out of protein. So chicken, shrimp, scallops, whatever it may be, using the coop set, so you wouldn't freeze and then use the blade that comes with the machine. This is totally used unfrozen. So you just load it with all your ingredients and then put the four-bladed coop blade on there and then just process it. It's just perfect. It makes it very easy. That's probably my favorite thing to do with it, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously the ice creams, the snows, the powders are really cool. I love being able to make like nut pastes, pistachio paste, mousse. These are all things that are simple, but just to be able to have that ability in your kitchen is pretty game changing, I think.
Once you got your Pacojet, your first Pacojet, did you find it easy to use?
Yeah, well, obviously I just bought a new one, which is the Pacojet 2 Plus. It just took me, I don't know, 15 minutes of reading the manual and just kind of understanding their legend of little pictures, air or decreased air, the repeat function. So, I mean, it was just really about a 10-minute download of getting to know the new interface. But I mean, now I really like it. I didn't think I was like, because I actually asked, dude, do you have any of the old ones, like a used one I could buy with the old ones? And he was like, get the new one. So I got the new one, and I'm happy with it. It's great.
Yeah, I'm sure the new ones are better than the old ones. I mean, they are all great, but the new ones are really better. And besides molecular gastronomy, what other kinds of recipe do you produce with Pacojet?
Well, one of the things I do is I set my sorbet. In catering and doing a large event, they don't really do ice cream. So caterers stay away from it. They're scared of it. It's hard to move, it's hard to hold, it's hard to plate. One of the things that we do in our ice cream and sorbet bases is that we put gellan, a low acid gellan, in our ice cream and sorbet base. This is an idea from Heston Blumenthal from the Fat Duck in England. Gellan is a thermal irreversible gel. And so once you add it to your base and then spin the ice cream, and then you can quenelle the ice cream and you put the ice cream on the plate, even if that ice cream totally melts, it will still retain its shape of the quenelle because the gellan gives it that structure. It's one of the things that we do to give us more time to be able to plate the ice cream and not have it melt and kind of ooze all over the plate. I would say it's probably the most common thing that we do for the Pacojet. We mainly use it for like ice cream and sorbets. I'd say about 90% is used for pastry production. And I would say about 10% is used in the sort of a culinary capacity. But ice creams, we like to take it really cold. So -30 Celsius. And then we spin it with no air. I rarely use the air plus function. I want it to be dense. It's almost chewable and, so smooth. The only other thing I know of to get that texture is, liquid nitrogen. So I love the ice cream that it makes.
Yes, it's amazing. The texture is like so smooth. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you have a cup set. And
Hmm.
what do you use it for on your business?
The coop is pretty much used exclusively for proteins, so tartars, chopping up like a beef tartare. I don't do that by hand. I just put the beef in the Pacojet, take the two blade coop, process it, comes out beautifully minced up meat. The mousselines, the mousses. I mean, that's pretty much what I use the coop set for. It saves you the freeze. You don't have to freeze. I mean, I've been making mousses and Pacojets for many, many years, but in the old days, I didn't have the coop set. So we had to pack the protein, maybe drop some scallops in there with some cream and some salt, and you'd have to freeze it. Then you have to wait for that freeze cycle to happen and then just process it. And it was really hard on the machine too. So I burned out a couple of motors doing this, and I also stripped out a couple of sprocket shafts with it. It's why I like that new design where you have to twist the blade on, because it kind of holds the blade to prevent that stripping of that thread. But the coop set, which are super sharp and not having to freeze so you can speed up the process, it's kind of a game changer in my world. It's really nice.
From 0 to 10, how would you rate the productive gains that you had?
People think a Pacojet is expensive, right? And what is it? You get the machine and all the accessories, the coop set, 20 beakers, get you started. And let's say you're at $8,000, $9,000, right? It's actually pretty cheap. And, if you wanted to buy, let's say you just use a machine for ice cream. And if you wanted to buy a traditional ice cream maker, like a Italian style, pour the liquid in the top, churn it, and then extract the ice cream and then freeze it, those machines can run $15,000 to $25,000, and it just does one thing. And I would say it makes almost maybe even inferior ice cream, because those machines are massive. Take a big plug, take a big real estate. They're very, very expensive. The Pacojet is tiny, takes a 110 outlet, and can process the same amount at even a better quality than, say, a traditional ice cream making machine. So taking into account the square footage of real estate in the kitchen taken up by a tiny machine, it being able to do lots of different things, I mean, I'd give it a 10.
Thank you. What makes the Pacojet so special for your business?
I would just say its size. It's small enough to transport. So let's say we go to Brazil to do a guest chef dinner. We have to have this Pacojet. I mean, we can easily load this thing in a suitcase, put it on the plane, and take it with us. That's a big deal, because it's almost like you can bring your capabilities with you. It's almost travel size. That's a really cool innovation. I like that. I like that a lot. First time, and I'm like, that's pretty awesome.
It is indeed. And what would you say to someone who doesn't have a Pacojet yet?
As not just an accessory or a luxury to have, but an absolute powerhouse of a must-have. Let's say you want to do butter. You can make your own butters, flavored butters. My dumb brain is the limiting factor.
And would you like to mention something else, something special?
Yeah, I guess, we're getting ready to open up a restaurant. It's called Frenchie. It's going to be a French restaurant. It's going to be cool. There is a very, very famous chef in New York named Gray Kuntz, and he passed away. And, anybody in New York now, chef wise, I mean, work for this guy at some point. I mean, he's like a legend. He's a culinary legend. His restaurant closed down. And while we were planning our restaurant, I just happened to ask, like, our kitchen design firm was like, whatever happened to that Maltini, cooking range that was in Cafe Gray? And they dug around and they found it. And so we bought Gray Kuntz's old Maltini, and we're going to put into our new restaurant, which I think is really cool, having a legendary piece of culinary equipment that we'll cook on for years to come.
Tyler, it was a pleasure having you here. I know you're super busy, so I will not hold you for any longer. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. It was really great.
Oh, thank you. You're absolutely sweet for saying that. I appreciate it. Means a lot.